I wish that I had the capacity to get the influencers involved, but for my era, this is sexy. So live it up. Tanse, newaka maganak, kititamska onawa oma, kitaskewak, kapetago tayan, egwamina, ninana skomawa gujig, kape pikswiam, kape wisamchik, kape pikswiam. Nestigasan Tracey Lindberg. I'm a member of the Belcourt, Campbell, and Calliope families. Otsinau at Sinawatsin Niau. I'm a citizen of the Kelly Lake Cree Nation. Otsinau means where my belly button is, and I think about that. Noegan, Wasanich, Coast Salish territory. Hi, hi. What I've said to you in my language is thank you to the peoples original to this territory for allowing me to be here. Thank you to Nova particularly for being so open and loving and welcoming. Thank you to my relatives in the room. Thank you to my cousins in the room. And thank you to the people who brought me here. Noting the host, West Coast Leaf, and the beautiful, beautiful organization that they do. I have to tell you that I walk into most rooms without context because I am pathologically shy. I'm also, I would say that I'm a person who's not necessarily social. I'm kind of asocial. So this, I had no context for this, and holy cow, like holy wow. I didn't know that this was a thing. This is a thing. I've been thinking a lot about what it is to be a person who thinks about equality with meaning, a person who thinks about what equality, and in the context of what the work that I do, what love means. I do know that part of the job is just showing up, learning, and listening, and so I'm so thankful that you showed up and that you're listening. I am also aware and instructed by the understanding and idea that love is a springboard for this conversation. It's seemingly odd that I would talk to you about love or write a book about love. Most of my life was not spent wrestling with loving things. And I will be frank, I'm a survivalist, not in the way that has been sort of placed in the media as survivalist, but the way we have substituted the idea of resiliency for survivalist. I lived through that. Resilience is, I think, a very polite way to say I lived through it. And conjugating some impressive verb or impossible verb, I lived colonization, I am living colonization, I am living through you. And I'm saying this not to be harsh, a condemnation, or to inspire guilt. I say it to recognize that I have survived Canada. But survival is not thriving. Survival is not joy. Survival is not love. Indigenous peoples, all peoples, have the right to thrive. We have the right to joy, and we have the right to love. I also stand by the statement that we have the right to be petty, but more about that later. Resilience, survival, necessary life are all differing forms of ways of enunciating impoverishment. Impoverishment means, yes, that we don't have access to, for us, for moose. I'm very disappointed there are no moose on Vancouver Island, just so you know. But impoverishment means that we don't have access to our own economic means. Yes, that's part of it. Our own diets. Yes, that's part of it. To me, impoverishment means that we don't speak our language. Impoverishment means that we don't speak our language, we don't sing our songs, we don't know our dances. Impoverishment means that we don't have a means to identify or gain access to ceremony. My sister died about 10 years ago, and when she died, I became quite aware that I wasn't informed, didn't know, hadn't passed on the understanding, hadn't been passed on to me of how we grieve. How do you grieve in a Nehewak way? How do you grieve in an Esquewak way? As a Cree woman, as a Cree family member, what are the rituals that we would go through? I know about wakes, I know about burying people, but when I look at old people's pictures and stories, some of us were placed in the trees. And I want to know what that means, what that link feels like. So for me, equality, not wealth, includes our language, our own laws in place, our own leadership, and yes, our right to make mistakes and be petty. Mistakes should take me naturally to a discussion of my love and my love life, but hold for a minute on that. I've actually written smize here, and if you watch America's Next Top Model, you know that I didn't actually mean to write smize, but it makes me smile to write smize, so there it is. We need to talk about love and lawful love, law as love, loving laws, loving lawfully, and living a loving life. These are a few of the things I keep thinking of when I wake up to walk through the world right now. One of them is that this is not our first rodeo. Plague, pandemic, invasion, occupation, border attack, expansion. This makes living in this particular time no more manageable, gentle, or navigable. What it does do is provide some foreseeability, language, and thrival skills. I think I made that up, so good luck with thrival. Thrival skills that I think are important to talk about. We have seen our proposed overseers move to roles of administration, direction, and supervision. What we have always understood and stand for is the truth that we govern ourselves, we lead our families, we guide our love. In this instance, it has been important for me to understand that leadership is not those imposed or forced upon us. Leadership is a living and moving thing. It is in the people, it is of the people, it is not a name, not a title, or a person. Regardless who has made it their project to manage us as Indigenous peoples, I come to understand that inequality harms but cannot destroy us as nations. We exist because we love each other, love our teachings, our values, our families and nations. This love, this imperfect and colonially, oh, that's a lot, colonially bruised, latterly twisted love is why I'm alive, is why we are alive. It's why the Kelly Cree Nation exists, persists, and rankles. We had Donis Kennedy into our classroom last week at the University of Victoria's JD/JID program, your Indigenous doctorate. And we were talking about the harm done. We were talking about colonization that we are living through. We were talking about the futility of talking about survival. And Donis had said, and please look Donis up if you can and find their work. She is profound and beautiful and grounded. Donis said that we are who we are, we survive that, but the beautiful that is us is because we live through it, that our ceremonies are so strong and so magnificent because they had to be. And I don't want to sort of mix that up with this should have happened or it didn't happen or whatever, but the idea, knowing that this love is here, this love, this imperfect love, is important to be able to do the work that all of us do. When I started the love project that became this book, I started as a person who was looking for love in actually all the wrong places. And not the bar rooms of my youth, not like the country song, but an ideation of love and what love looks like. What I wanted to do in this work was to expand and understand this. I wrote to George Littlechild, whom I've met before and did the cover of Birdie and did the cover of this book. I asked him if we could talk about doing a book together. One thing you need to know when I bring this up is that George is a force and I am a stone. And take that for everything you know that means. I went to his own home and he opened his catalog to me, and I opened the conversation and said, George, I want to write a book about love. And he said, no. It's been done. How about we do a book on horses? I got a little wobbly, I'll admit it, because if there's anything I know less about than love, it's horses. I told him this story that I'm going to tell you. I approached my elder and asked her, how is it that we can talk about love? Like in the understanding that I have of love and the meaning of love, we throw it around and it's in the movies and it's on the screens and it's in the books. And I said, I'm trying to write about Cree love and what that looks like. And she said, funny, There is no Cree word for love. And I said, that's not true. Which you have to have a good relationship with your elder to be able to do that. And I'm a stone. And I said, that's impossible. Like, I see people having love. I see love everywhere. I feel love. I've been in ceremony. I know the love. And she said, we don't have that romanticized Western idea of love. That there isn't a word for that because that doesn't exist. And when I say it's impossible, I like impossible. It's why my love of law is so rich and why my love life has not been. I talked to George about wanting to write about love across borders, eras, nature, genders, beings and more than beings, spirits and words. He reluctantly let me proceed. He is a force. I selected 16 paintings initially from the hundreds and hundreds of paintings that he graced his kitchen table with. I chose 16 of them and developed, during that time, utilized them into 4 different seasons. So there's spring, summer, fall, winter, and there's a story in each chapter that's based upon that. It moves through these eras of family and the realities of family and looking at what love is and what love is not. Because that romantic love that exists on the page, not my pages, that exists in movies and exists in books, fades. It's chemical. After however long, I don't believe anymore that that is love. During the pandemic, 2 young boy men came to live with me because I had enough. I had enough for all of us. I had not had children, and I did not know how. Sorry, I should put this. This is my family. Through the line, this is my mother. She is 16 years old there. She was pregnant when she was 15 with my sister, who passed. That's my mushum, my grandfather Ernest, on your far left. And in the photo next to that, that's my chapan. Chapan means great-grandparent and great-grandchild because we are situated between the worlds by equidistance. Sorry, translators, I didn't use that word. That we are that close to being in the beautiful world. So when I think about love, I think about and reflect upon the idea that my parents loved me with all their heart, and they couldn't parent. And I've never learned how to be a parent. And I had these 2 young men these boys in their teens come and live in my house. And I found myself one day, put on your bingo card the F word. I found myself one day yelling at them because they're at the top of the stairs, quit effing around. Nobody's ever said to me to quit effing around. I don't even know where that came from. But what I can tell you is that I was afraid they were going to fall down the stairs, and that was love. That love is sometimes understanding the borders and creating the words and piecing together things that you might not ordinarily use to be able to ensure that people are safe. When I was growing up, my aunties and uncles traveled through our home and took care of us. My mom and my dad took care of our physical needs. My aunties and uncles took care of our emotional needs. In the Cree language, kikiwasasak, little mothers. They are the little mothers. My little mother is nikiwasasak. The people who teach you how to be and move through the world. I became a little mother to my nephews and became a person who, through that experience, came to understand what love actually is. And also, during pandemic, I'm allergic to all animals. I got a dog, and I'm not allergic to it, and I get it. I get why people want to take their dogs everywhere with them, and I get why you want to take time off for sick leave for your dog. I get it. That's as close as I get to romantic love, I'm going to be honest. But also during the pandemic, a time when none of us were promised the next day, my husband had a quintuple bypass. And this was in March of 2020. And the hospitals weren't even shut down until the beginning of March. We had just on the cusp of it started to deal with the understanding of life and death and where we come from. For me, I have never had that sort of experience where I had to make hard decisions and think about love in that way. I had to come to understand that love is, trite as it sounds, a verb. I would never have been able to write this book, know this joy, do more than survive it, if it were not for the teachings that were provided to me from those 3 people during that time period, and that dog. That the requirement of love is that I do something. That I do something, that I participate, that love is something you do. And I came to understand that because I had to do love during the pandemic for my partner and for now my kids. Love is a verb that requires you to make sure your family is provided for, healthy, and able to exercise their right to joy. Love is supporting the right to make mistakes. And if things are as they should be, we can do this in our language, in our lodges, in our homes, and in our teachings, ethics, and spaces provided, and we provide time for. Ultimately, I have come to understand and figure out that in that parallel world where I translate English and Cree, my English is so much better than my Cree, I have come to find and think that love is equality, that it's work and it's messy and it's not finite and it's not always the same path every time. Whatever that means in terms of context, family, community, nation, and being, love is the ability to thrive, feel joyful, feel peaceful. In that regard, love is equality. That's what I'm fighting for. I want access, equal access to knowledge of how to grieve, access to elders and kin and healthy spaces, to the land, to the water, equal opportunity to have my laws related to roles and obligations of leaders, citizenship, families. It is what binds us as relatives. When Treaty 6 was negotiated and sent up into the air through the pipe and through smoke, the elders of Saskatchewan tell us, through the late Harold Cardinal Ban and Walter Hildebrand. When Treaty 6 was formulated and spoken into the world, not the signed version, that it was understood that the people who were coming were going to be our relatives. The relatives were going to be cousins or in-laws, depending on the Cree word. As cousins and in-laws, we have legal obligations to each other. I take that very seriously as a product of both settler parents, Swedish and Scottish, and Cree parents. I want you to take it seriously, that idea that we're relatives. Offering your ancestors and some of my settler ancestors that pipe and securing the shared meaning intent through the smoke, and knowing that Indigenous laws would form the basis for our ongoing relationship means a couple of things. First, we agree to live alongside and beside each other. I'm trying to show you some of George's pictures so you can get a feel for what's in the book here. You can just scroll through them, whoever's doing IT, if you like. That's Kelly Lake, where I'm from. That's a close-up, just in case you want to get really... you want to see people fishing. That first we agree as partners, whatever that is, to live as nations alongside each other. And second, that as relatives, as relations, we have responsibilities to each other. And if it seems fantastic, and let's face it, love is often fantastic, that you commit as relatives to the love of our language, our nations, our laws, our families, and our standards as well. That love is, as I come to understand it, is equality. As relatives, you offer us your advocacy, support, and commitment to equal access and love of our languages, land-based lives, border protection and recognition, access to the re-strengthening, reteaching, and re-understanding of our laws. Colonization also seems impossible if you look at it with some distance. Surely equality, love, is more possible than that. Living your non-binary gender with joy and finding a whole slew of people trained in the multiplicity of genders, which I have heard in Cree context can be 7 or 13, that are understood as culturally and legally normative in your culture, I want that to be normally understood when I walk in the world. I think that's equality, when we all think like that, when we all talk like that, and our citizens can come to you and you know that. That's law. That's equality. Knowing the instances where colonial violence has harmed your families, my family as a whole, and that organizations, law schools, advocacy groups, people will understand that those forms of harm, of damage, of inequality, of non-love require your resources, time, commitment, and community too. In your understanding of love, in your understanding of equality, identity makeup, multiplicity of genders, relationship with more than humans, and honoring our environment as holder of breath, wind, water, stars, trees, and multi-leggedness, all build in us an obligation to love, to do, to find and support equally your relations, understanding, and equality. We possess equality of access to love, and we should work for that. Participation in that equality of access, as far as I can see and understand, that is love. And I wish it for each of us, all of us. My hope is that you build it with others who don't have it as your family responsibility. I showed the elder the book, the one who said there is no love. Well, before that, I talked to her and said, hey, I wrote that book, that one about love. And she said, you wrote a book about love? And I said, yeah. And she said, you know, there's no word for that in our language. And while there is not, the idea that we have responsibility to be in love with each other, working for love as each other, love as a verb, enhances and underlies the understanding that I have of equality and what it means to be, how it means to be, how we should be. I often say to learners that I work with that I'm trying to work through the logics of coexistence when my existence doesn't look like everyone else's, when your existence doesn't look like everyone else's, and I'm trying to find the commonalities. And the commonalities to me are that we have legal, within a Cree understanding, we have legal obligations to our family members depending on how they are our family. And as cousins, and as in-laws, and as blood relatives, I'm gonna tell you to take it effing easy, draw some hard boundaries and say that this is a responsibility that you can do in the everyday, being a person who is related to and taking responsibility for. And in that vein, when they write the next book, which is called The Grief Eaters, I'm going to look to the generation of women who are taking responsibility for ensuring that we are able to have loving existences. In that book, the first person at the top of the chain is Japan, a great-grandmother, and also the fourth person is Japan, a great-grandchild. The great-grandmother is going to be a person who physically involves themselves in the eating of grief, that it's through ceremony and they eat the grief. And in the fourth generation, which is maybe a very selfish way for me to be able to go out and hang out with comedians, the person's going to be a stand-up comedian. So in that sort of place where we wind through it, I understand that often when you have speakers at these events, that entertainment and joy and bliss are integral, but I also understand them as aspirational, and I want to be able to walk into the day with, the week with, the evening with, the understanding that this can be a joyful existence because you've got my back, and I've got yours because we're family. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.